is not eligible for Windows 11, and in October they stopped supporting Windows 10.
Yeah.
So I'm in the same boat.
Yep. I need a new PC, so I need to buy something new.
So we're live, by the way. So if you guys out there want to throw a little money toward the channel, we can try to work on getting a brand new computer. Considering his poor Mac is on its last legs.
It's 2009. It's an '09. I think it did pretty well.
Hey, you know,
I mean, I think you got your money's worth out of it.
I did. I did.
just a little bit, just a little bit. Sideburn is away for a couple minutes, so he'll be back. So this week we are going to be talking about Marvel comic books. Not, X-Men and all that stuff. I mean, although we do like our superhero stuff, we're primarily talking about the Transformer fandom and how it was impacted by the Marvel comics versus the cartoon. Because the comics was the other way we actually were able to absorb media for knowing who these characters were, and it's kind of different in the UK because they had a different story arc for a lot of their stuff from what I hear. So I don't know exactly how different that is. I don't know if Don's read any of those or not. He might be able to give us a little input on that.
It does. Marvel UK was reprinting US stuff, because Marvel US was monthly and they were weekly. They had to create a lot of stuff to fill out, which led to some of their greatest story arcs that we never knew about until the internet age, or unless you just knew someone that lived in England and read the comics and so forth like that. So, what we're mostly talking about is Marvel US, Marvel G1 US, because that's the easiest thing to discuss as far as its implications to the franchise and to us personally.
Yeah, I mean, also remember that the UK comics also brought about different characters that we didn't have, and then sometimes they were kind of integrated back into the extended lore of G1, which would be in like your Regeneration and your Image Comics and all that. But we're talking about Marvel. We're talking about the original 80 issues. And I threw a question out there, and I think that's what we're going to start with. Out of the original 80 issues, we're just going to go around the room and say, what was your favorite? We'll start with that. Just what was your favorite issue and why?
Personally, it's going to be kind of cliche. I'm going to say the very first issue, because the artwork on the very first issue of the Marvel comic was extremely different than the rest of the comic and the rest of the entire comic run. That artwork literally just looked completely different. And there's just something about the way iconic. That cover art just looks that really appealed to me. I loved how odd it was and how kind of stretched Optimus Prime looked on it and everything. It was very cool looking to me. It kind of almost had that Diaclone feel with his Brett's holding it up right now. Got a bit of a glare on it, but that's...
Yeah, this is a poster, so it's much bigger. But if you look, just how big they made him. I mean, that's a city down by his foot.
Yeah, it definitely would have caught your attention on the shelf as a issue number 1.
Jim Shooter, by the way. Oh yeah.
And that's probably like my favorite, because I like the origin story of how they did stuff in there. How Optimus Prime didn't look like a semi-truck in it. He looked like a really weird
battle platform.
It was like a battle platform, which...
Yeah, it was. It was a battle platform. Which, to this day, I wish we had gotten an actual toy.
I was about to say that. Why? Okay, you third-party guys out there. This is a shout-out to you third-party dudes out there. Get off your duff and make one of those. Why hasn't this happened? That's the dumbest thing that you guys have just completely skimmed over. Like, you guys have even made that silly little sonar cassette dude that comes out of Soundwave. No.
Oh, the Scout?
Yeah, that Scout thing that Hasbro never and has never made. So, those are
Yeah,
battle platform Optimus that everybody, like, would love to see. Make it look like that cover art Optimus. That would be interesting. Just my opinion.
I mean, the yeah, yeah. All right, so we're just going to, like I said, go around the room before we start critiquing and all that. Don, what was your favorite?
Oh, there's so many.
It was tough for me.
My favorite single issue or my favorite.
So we're talking about a single issue,
Okay.
and could it be based upon a storyline? Absolutely.
I would say probably issue 79, The Last Autobot, with
Ooh, ooh.
Spike is on the cover,
Yep.
trying to reconcile his partnership with Fortress Maximus, who's been pretty much non-existent in the comics for nearly 50 issues at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It shows them struggling with the weight, Spike's place in the war, Fortress Maximus's need to do something. And there's a panel. I had a shirt. I had it put on a shirt by a local T-shirt printing company for BotCon one year. It's where Megatron is beating the stuffing out of them because they're not working together. And then they realize that they have to work together to defeat Megatron. And then it says, Spike says, better. Now let's try it. And they both say together.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of embrace their duality as a single being. And I think that kind of shows off the incredibly deep bond a headmaster can have versus something like, as much as I love the Rebirth. Rebirth is one of my favorites. It is not my favorite headmaster origin. It's not at all, because they're just exosuits that become there's no bond there. And I think issue 79, and I've also got that signed by both Simon and Andrew Baldwin.
Nice.
So I think of all the issues, single issues, that's my favorite issue.
It's funny you should pick that one because, a lot of collectors they look at the value, especially in comics, in the value, and like issue 1 and issue 80 are probably worth the most. Okay, but 79, to find one in good condition is more rare than any of them because of that white and light blue cover. It was a low run. They started cutting the run in 75, issue 75, and 79 had this just totally white cover with Spike in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get. So that one actually, in a good grade, goes for more money than any of them.
Yeah. Well, it's scarcity condition and all that, but it's
Right.
just we were lucky because they've said that they knew they were canceled at 80. They knew they were canceled at 80.
Yep.
They knew around 75 they were getting canceled.
Simon knew that in the 70s, it was somewhere in the 70s, it might have been 75, that they were done. And he had all these stories, and they wanted to push them out. So some of them got rushed, but some more were really good. But they wanted to finish the story, And to me, that's like hats off to them. They just didn't, end it.
Yeah. The thing is, though, and I'll let someone else go with it, but the thing for me is how good 79 is and how much that means to me as a fan of the Headmaster concept. Generation 2, issue 2. That's what makes that hurt even more.
Well, we'll get into the G2
Yeah,
stuff.
but I'm just saying there's...
Yeah.
there's that.
my bread and butter.
Yeah. So, Mike, do you remember anything about the Marvel comics? Because I know you didn't collect them. You grabbed a few, but
Yeah, no, I mean, most of my stuff was things that were reissued or packed into toys. I mean, like I have issue number 1. It was packed into a toy. I
The
feel
twenty
like,
fifth the 25th Optimus I think had that in it.
correct.
yeah, and I feel like I have read the first 4, um, probably online. I know at one point I think I read the issue with Spider-Man in it.
Oh yeah, that was issue 3.
Okay, yeah. Um,
I have something funny to say about that here in a minute, but we'll go ahead and keep going.
but yeah, for the most part, I think my big exposure to it was really just the first 4 issues, and then just like sporadic, like looking things up, reading about certain issues. Um, so yeah, my knowledge of it, um, I've been thinking about, been kind of eyeing that Kickstarter, but it seems so costly. But
Well,
yeah,
we're going to talk about the Kickstarter
yeah,
later.
yeah, I figure we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, what the most iconic things are just sort of the comic book covers that you see over and over and over again, or certain things you see over and over again. Like, you know, if I'm going to talk about, as someone who's never really consumed it, Marvel comic standouts, it's going to be like the Autobots are all, you know, the Transformers are all dead. You know,
Issue 5 all are dead
yeah,
with
with
Shockwave.
the Shockwave on the front of it.
There's something about that cover, and I was going to actually go by and ask everyone what the most iconic cover is. 100% for me, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
that gentleman, I cannot remember his name. He died relatively recently. The cover artist for that passed away recently. For that, all are dead.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
I forget the guy's
Unfortunately.
name that drew it.
and then like Autobot Spike, you know, that's something that I've seen a lot. But yeah, for me, it's really more just like standout sort of pieces of lore that I've looked into over the years. I mean, if I'm going to choose something, I mean, number 5 is probably the most iconic cover Transformers ever. Like,
I agree with you on that.
though I will say I looked up the cover you guys were talking about, and that's quite the interesting cover. I mean, that's like just a big old Joker smile in the background.
Yeah.
With it, which stands out quite a lot. But
That
was that 79? The last Autobot?
84. It was published in 84.
Oh. So I mean, yeah. I've unfortunately, like, you know, there's chances to read them now, more than ever. But yeah, it was kind of a black box for me for a long time.
Yeah.
Which
So
is kind of sad because it seems like people around his age really missed out on a lot of this stuff unless they got a hold of the IDW volumes. I think they did it twice, but there was one volume set that they put out that they had to black out Spider-Man and black out Circuit Breaker because they didn't have the rights for them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they actually had to black them out as a silhouette, and that's all that was in there.
Yeah, because Circuit Breaker actually appeared in an issue of Secret Wars 2 to give Marvel ownership of the character. It's kind of like a reverse thing of ROM, because Marvel didn't have the rights to ROM itself, but all the lore that they made up for ROM was theirs. So it's kind of it's the whole Hanna-Barbera GoBot Transformer thing again all over. But yeah, it's a shame that people can't play nice in each other's yards and take their balls and go home. But
Right.
If you know, you know, and you can find out. So there's ways around that.
Very true. But yeah, that's the one thing I was
So
going to mention about what Michael was talking about with Spider-Man, which was interesting.
yeah. So for me, there's three that really stick out. Um, so I'm gonna do two honorable mentions, and then I'll do my favorite. And I'm gonna go in order. So with number 10, Transformers number 10, that was the first appearance of the Constructicons, who merged into Devastator. And the neat thing about it was, one, I remember as a kid getting the toys, and I got the single ones, so you had to find them all. And it wouldn't be just one trip to the toy store, it would be several to get the complete
Get them
set.
all.
So it was like, to me, the birth of like Pokemon. You got to catch them all. You know, I had to get all of these 6, especially when I got them and I didn't know what these stupid pieces did. You know, because you could look on the back and see it, but to have it complete was a totally different experience. So, to me, that is an honorable mention. Not to mention, it was the first cameo of Jetfire. Okay, he didn't debut until the next issue, 11, but 10. All right, and then we moved down, and this one's kind of goofy. Another honorable mention would be 24. And that was actually the first death of Optimus Prime.
Oh, the video game one.
And where he
Oh,
coded
that's
into a floppy. And
yeah.
at the time, guess what, guys? That's what I had. Floppy disks. So it was
That's
oh my God.
that's another iconic one. That's another one that I've seen many times. Is that Game Over?
It really
Optimus Prime.
was.
Yeah.
Because they took the character and threw it down to stuff we were using right now.
God.
But in all honesty, one of my favorites was number 25.
Megatron's Last Stand.
Yes, that was the first team appearance of Predacons, which I love Predaking. And he obliterates Megatron. Just beat his butt all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Megatron's insanity helped sort of play a part in that as well.
Well, and then that actually got to another one that came out later on. And that was issue... crud, that was towards the end. It might take me a minute to find it, because I'm trying to think of it. It's when Galvatron and Megatron fought.
Yeah.
And it's
Because
like, what was that? That was insanity.
Yeah. The previous issue ended with like Galvatron saying, Megatron, but I'm Megatron.
I'm Megatron. It was 78. So you're talking like 2 issues before the end, and they threw that out. But to recap, 25 to me, it was just I every panel, and I'm just like, oh my God, they're hunting him. The Decepticons are hunting Megatron, and it was really, really neat. I love the writing, I love the artwork and the cover. It's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as good as number 5, but it was good. When I saw it on the newsstands, I said, I got to get it. Got to get it. So,
Newsstand? What's that?
no, go around again.
Kitties.
The worst. What was the worst issue? And I've got a couple. That's the problem.
Transformers #1.
Honestly, yeah, I could see that too. Just because of how they really, really tried to throw this concept into you, and it wasn't really well put together. It was kind of like a string of ideas to shove because let's face it, the comics were there to sell the toys. And so I get that. I do. But let's start over again. Don. Worst issue and why?
Anything with the mechanic. I just felt he was an annoyance. With Robot Master, you knew that they were trying to spin it that he was in control of the Transformers, and that he was supposed to be a goofy comic book villain kind of thing. So that was taught.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The mechanic was the one that stole weapons from Ratchet.
Yeah, and then became a
criminal.
Criminal. Yeah, it's just he didn't really. You kind of felt bad for the guy playing Robot Master, because towards the end anyway, because you realize he was kind of caught in the middle of all this stuff. Although he turned skids in and took the money, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But it just mechanic felt, man, didn't really add anything. He was like if Lockdown was boring, like if animated Lockdown, but human and boring. Transformers Animated would do human villains much, much better on down the road. But in terms of this, I just never really cared for the mechanic. I just thought he was a one note. But my least favorite comic cover is probably one of your favorite, Brits, 24. Game Over Optimus Prime.
At the time it looked like a video game display. That was the idea.
Optimus Prime. Now that I'm much older, I can see that's very much in character for Optimus Prime. At the time, I thought he was an idiot. I have bad feelings about that issue 24 anyway, and that cover is by connection not one of my favorites.
And I'm just going to throw this in there, by the way. In my opinion, one of the worst covers that they ever did was number 9. Number 9 was the first appearance of Circuit Breaker.
Oh.
And you can see why. For 2 reasons. All right? First of all, what's in the forefront? Come on. Give me a break.
It's the 80s.
Okay? It was, but it's stupid. But then second, come on! Starscream! What do you got, a bowl on your head? What? Seriously, what?
It looks like it looks like the top of his head is further forward than his face is. It's like if you took a bicycle helmet and pushed it forward onto your forehead.
Sorry, that was just not good.
It's a very goofy cover.
All right, Jason. Worst issue.
Honestly, don't really have a worst issue because admittedly, I have not read all of the Generation 1 comics because I never had them all. I'm just trying to think if anything's really stood out like that. I mean, I was always infatuated with the artwork, but now that you're pointing out the way Starscream's head looks like on that circuit breaker.
Yeah, it bugged me. It really bugged me.
I don't really think it might have been like a Headmaster comic or something like that I saw that I didn't really like, but I don't remember which one it was.
Hey, side note, Transformers Animated, when they did the Headmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you remember that big thing when it popped on there? I had flashbacks of this comic in the cover. That's how bad it is.
I hated. I hated.
Yes.
Animated did a lot of great things. The Headmaster having
some of the things they did cringy things.
The Headmaster having 2 episodes was not one of those great things.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The No, Dirt Boss, pretty cool. I like Dirt Boss.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
So-
It's a shame that Constructicons never went anywhere in animated.
No,
That show was,
but wait a minute.
that show was canceled too soon.
We got two of them,
It's very true.
and they were funny. You know, but I wanted the other four. Anyway, off topic. For me, and I'm going to get a lot of crap for this. It's got to be 31. The Car Wash of Doom.
Oh no,
Oh,
no!
Yeah,
I think I
I
remember
hated
that
it.
issue now.
That cover is
Yep, I told you.
classic. It's got the
Oh,
Indiana
with the
Jones
Rat
box.
Bat? Come on, man.
The Rat Bat looks fine, but the story was crap. It was
It's
so stupid.
but it's so memorable.
I know. That's why I said people would hate me for it. I
I
just
don't hate you. It's just the
I
whole
didn't care
thing
for the
is
story.
it's a fun little outing. That's just Buster and Jesse.
Well, I mean, we just got over the storyline of the Scraplets and all that goofy stuff, and then we get this, and I'm like, really?
I've seen this
Just-
cover many times as well. This is one of the ones I've seen.
It is an iconic cover. I get it. The story to me was garbage. I did not care for it.
So having zero knowledge, was the episode in animated where the plant went haywire and they had to fight the plant? Is that essentially what Car Wash of Doom is?
No.
No.
No, it had to do with. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I just looking
I'm
at the
trying to
cover. That would
remember.
be my guess, but
It had to do with which was a rut that infected Transformers, and it was eating them alive. And then all of a sudden, they cure themselves, and then we have this car wash that someone made to dismantle cars. So it was the Car Wash of Doom. Don, is that essentially correct?
Any kind of, sort of, yeah.
I mean,
So what?
remember, I haven't read this thing in probably 30 years.
So what I
And it's
probably
me
need
just
to do,
remembering the bits.
me and my nerdy customization, I probably should chase down an old Hot Wheels car wash and turn that into the Car Wash of Doom.
I mean,
Oh,
the cover
your GoBots.
Hey,
yeah,
it'd be
the
perfect
cover
for
itself
GoBots.
is
Yeah.
the cover itself is like it's Rat Bat holding Buster with Jesse in the car wash, and the caption bubble is, "It's wet, it's wild, it's the Car Wash of Doom."
I know.
in the,
It's
Indi-
so bad.
in the Indiana Jones font, and it's just
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's just awesome by default for being
No,
so ridiculous.
no, it was dumb.
it's a product of its time for sure.
It really was. Yeah.
I
Now,
get.
if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I do remember because I did have some of the UK comics and how they were written and everything. In Marvel 33, they go back to like King Arthur times, this, that, and the other, and it kind of
that one.
it kind of paved the way to interact, in my opinion, the UK comics, which were more, I'm sorry, but the UK comics were more stoic. You know, the bots were more, less feeling, more robotic. And I got that little, oh, there's UK? I got to get some of these. And it kind of was a segue for me to get these. And this was in 87. So getting comics from the UK wasn't easy.
I was negative
Uh,
1 years old.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's called mail order. Dude, that's what it was.
How did you manage to mail order UK comics in the 80s? Like, what
So-
catalog system did you use back then?
So they had when there was a magazine, it was a black and white magazine that would come out and that would tell you all the comics coming out, and then you could have your LCS order them for you. But always on the back there were individual ads of past like issues and stuff people selling. It literally was like a early version of like Craigslist. You know, so you could do it that way.
I thought
And
it
remember,
was
this
like
is way before internet and all that stuff.
but yeah, I
It was
mean,
like classifieds.
yeah, it was kind of like getting classified ads in a newspaper almost.
Well, everything was paper.
Yeah.
Remember that everything was paper. Any information you got, news, all that, either local news came over the television. What was happening in like California for me, I never knew unless my local television told me about it.
Hey, I remember paper. Okay, I'm not that young. Okay.
We're talking to the youngsters out there that don't know.
Right. So being able to connect with someone overseas, now granted, believe it or not, if you bought something from, let's say, the UK, you're looking at like 6 to 8 weeks before you get it.
I believe it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because there's no Amazon, there's no FedEx, there's no.
internet.
I don't even think UPS was around during that. I think it was just the post office.
Yeah.
In the mid '80s.
Yeah, I think UPS started about the mid '80s, and if UPS was used, it was used mainly for businesses. It wasn't used for individuals.
Well, and it's funny because that actually portion turned into UPS Ground, and then they did the international one, which
Right.
built upon it. But yeah, I mean, the UK comments were neat, and like I said, I'd love to talk about that at another time.
No.
But to me, this was kind of like a little segue because I got these every month, and when 33 came out, and if you ever see the cover of 33, you see what looks like a Megatron in a prime colors, and it looks really weird. You know, it was not a bad story. It was a good segue, so it would not be listed on my bad stories like the Car Wash of Doom. Sorry, Don. It just was. It was neat. That to me was neat. So, and there's just so many different ones. But Jason, did you do your worst yet? Might be hard.
Dude, it's very difficult for me because, like I said, I never read all of them. Honestly, the King Arthur comic book, like the cover art for that one, I did not like. I thought it was weird. I didn't like the perspective that they drew. The particular.
It's skewed.
I don't
But
like
to me,
how they did that at all.
I get it, but to me, it actually harkens back to number one.
Yeah, it
helped you
does.
that
It
much.
does, but it's just something about the way they did that art wasn't as punchy, I should say.
It was cheap.
It's cheap. Yeah, there you go.
It was just cheap.
Yeah, on the topic of Marvel Comics, I'm surprised Don didn't mention this. What about Death's Head, dude?
I like
Death's-
Death's Head.
Death's Head is fine. It's never been. He's an interesting character that I've always liked from the periphery. He's fine. He's just fine.
I think he's cool because he's a bounty hunter.
Well, and also remember that he was cool enough that a third-party company made him into a Transformer.
Well, I mean, he was the one that had like the huge crossover that brought Transformers into the superhero Marvel side.
Well, actually, the Spider-Man one did that first, although
Well, it did first,
it was very, 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 very brief.
Right, but this is where really they try to span it hardcore with Death's Head.
Well, I actually think it was more towards because Death's Head was more popular in the UK. It was more of a bridge for that, you know. And then you found out that, oh, by the way, you know, there's like 30 issues of UK Transformers. Oh my gosh. You'd have to go back and try and find them, and they were totally different. Because to me, I think they did more stoic, more lore to build up that backstory.
Well, the fact that they made
Whereas Marvel
Galvatron
just
and
kinda
Megatron
threw it
different.
out.
Sorry. I was
No,
about
go
to
ahead.
say because they took Galvatron and Megatron and they were two totally different characters. They were never the same character. In the UK
Well, they didn't have
comics,
to.
from what I
They
remember.
didn't have to go. Marvel had to abide by what was that? Sumbo.
I believe so.
Yes. Sombo.
Sumbo. And what they did, and then they made the movie. So of course they had to, because who did the movie series? Marvel. They had to go with those guidelines. Over there, no, they didn't. They just took the names, the lore, and everything, and they just kind of made it what it was. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some good issues. There were some poor ones, but here we are talking about just 80 issues of Transformers in Marvel, and we're already picking out bad ones. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man and Marvel went for over 700 issues. You don't think they had some dogs? Oh yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it's gonna happen. But-
One thing I want to ask is not a specific issue or a specific character per se, but looking at the entirety of the Marvel run, what do you personally think was some of the highlights? Just, like the entire 80 issue run, not talking about G2 or Regeneration, just the original 80 issue run. What stands out as, if you want to say, this is what I remember the most about this series?
Ooh,
I'm going to go first so I can explain. Two things.
go
One,
for it.
Neo Knights. We got the Neo Knights because you have this war raging on Earth between two alien robot factions. You think that someone with superpowers is going to stay sidelined on this? I mean, if you look at it in retrospect, it makes sense because there are people in this world, maybe not like regular Marvel 616, because that's a whole other can of worms with Spider-Man appearing. That's a whole other can of worms right there.
I'll build upon that. Go ahead.
But we had superhumans stepping up. Now they knew that they weren't all the same. They weren't all the same, and
Right.
you had some very interesting characters. Rapture, who could project dreams, which was an extremely interesting power.
Yeah.
Dynamo could, harness the Earth resources. Thunder Punch was a little weird, but he did fill the strongman kind of role. And then you had Circuit Breaker, who was probably the most powerful of the group physically, with as far as offensive weaponry, and once she understood about the difference between Autobot and Decepticon. I mean, the only thing you were missing was GB Blackrock in a suit of armor, because he basically was Marvel G1 Tony Stark, pretty much.
Yes.
So
Yep.
the Neo Knights, I think, deserve better as far as since then. But I understand the rights issues and crap like that. Again, that's just something that I take away as I'm grateful for. The other thing that I'm grateful for is the Headmasters miniseries 1 through 4. I think that is some of the best looking art. It's some of the best storytelling. And for me, it makes the most sense for the Headmaster concept of how it would actually work versus, as I said earlier, I love the Rebirth, but I don't like their take on the Headmaster concept. It's more like the Japanese transectors kind of thing. Not quite, but similar. But I think Headmasters 1 through 4 from Marvel is some of the best storytelling related in the Transformers universe.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Here's my problem with the whole Neo Knights, because when they showed up, I literally did go, why? Because way back in, what was it, 3, Spider-Man is in this universe. Okay, Spider-Man is in with the Avengers. Why do we need to create another Avengers if the Avengers are there? Why didn't the Avengers cross over? Hang on.
Okay,
Hang on. So, to me, it never made a lot of sense. So then you start integrating metahumans, however you want to call them, that have these powers that are really, really, they assembled. They're there to avenge the Earth. Do you not see a theme here? I mean, we already have this. So I really didn't care for them because I thought it was a rehashed idea of Marvel putting their people into the storyline. And in my opinion, it didn't need to be there. Even Circuit Breaker, and she made reoccurring roles or appearances, and it felt pushed. It kind of did, because you had Marvel saying, all right, we're going to make this comic to sell these toys. All right, the toys are selling well. All right, well, we really need our Marvel toys to sell well. Let's mix them. Put them together. So that if you wanted Transformers, you wanted Marvel. If you wanted Marvel, you wanted Transformers. That's how I took it. It was a marketing gimmick.
Right. Well, see, the thing is, though, I think they realized. Now, this is just my opinion. I think Spider-Man in the first issue of a licensed comic was basically your gimmick to get people to read this new comic. We all know that. It was been done to death. Even though, even the Shogun Warriors had crossovers with the rest of the Marvel Universe. Godzilla had interactions with the rest of the Marvel Universe. But I think with Transformers going to an ongoing series, they realized they could not work the rest of the Marvel Universe into this, because it's like, okay, you've got Megatron attacking. Why doesn't everyone just show up and beat the hell out of the Decepticons and the war's over? You got Fantastic Four, you got Avengers, you've got da-da-da-da-da. And so they realized they're going to have to kind of let this thing be its own thing. But they also realized later on they could work a superhero aspect into it by creating the Neo Knights. It was just a little too late by the time they got the ball up and rolling and getting them inserted into the comic. So I think that's what they did, is they just realized we can't have the Avengers showing up, otherwise the war's over. We can't have Mr. Fantastic show up and make a device that raises the Decepticons in place and the war's over.
Yep, maybe. Because also during that time, I mean, those characters were not fully developed.
Yeah, they weren't.
So to which you knew, hey, they could kick his butt. Having them go against a race that's never been, cinched out or even defined. I mean, even in the 1 through 80 storyline, how strong were they? How resilient were they? How dependent are they? You never really got all that. So I think it would have worked. But I think what they wanted to do with, and I'm sorry, but right around that time, the hype of X-Men was extremely high.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get these guys that could be mutants and bring them in. And they did that to hype it up. And I think it was so bad, and that's why only one of them made it out. The rest weren't really talked about after that storyline.
I mean, it's just important to me to see that they realize that the humans, once these people are found with powers, and they I mean, it makes sense. The humans are going to step up. Would I have done it differently? Completely. But again, some of my favorite Marvel characters are C and D listers: Jack of Hearts, Thunderstrike, Power Pack, Slingers. I mean, not exactly household names, but that's my takeaway. Is I just love the Neo Knights. I love the concept. I wish they had gotten more. And as far as the headmasters, I think headmasters 1 through 4 is the definite take on the way you explore the concept, which we would see down the road in '79. So that's what I take away from Marvel G1 and what it means to me.
Okay.
It also made me hate Grimlock for a while because he was a serious douchebag in the comics.
He was. He really was. um so I mean we could go further before we go into the the it's not GoFundMe or whatever. Where they're Kickstarter, thank
Yeah,
you.
Kickstarter.
We could do that, finish that up, and be done, or we could kind of go a little further with this if you wanted.
Well,
I don't know where you guys want to go with
I
it.
think one of the biggest, like some of the biggest impact when it came to Marvel Comics for myself was when they introduced GI Joe in with the Transformers, because it just made sense.
To you.
To me, yeah, it did, because I liked the fact that you had the military forces, and then you'd have some underground terrorist organizations and stuff like that that would want to get a hold of the technology behind all this, and it just put in a little bit of a scope of what the human aspect actually would be like if it got involved. And I actually liked it. I didn't like what they did, like with the Michael Bay movies. Don't get me wrong there. I wish they would have stuck more
We're
with
talking.
G.I.
You're
Joe
talking about the
stuff.
Marvel.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Marvel GI Joe Transform, or Transform GI Joe, whatever,
Right.
whatever.
And I think they did very well by kind of like, they killed Bumblebee off. And they literally just obliterate him. Because they find him as a threat.
So they can make Goldbug.
Yeah, and then they make Goldbug from him. Which makes
Goes
a lot
totally
of sense.
But it goes totally against the cartoon.
Well, it does go against the cartoon, which is fine.
Which is fine. Here's my thought, and I'm going to direct this to Don. Did you collect Transformer comics when they came out?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The reason I'll explain that real quick. My father felt comic books was a waste of money. My first issue that I ever bought was Aerial Bots Over America issue 21. I bought it for 50 cents at the flea market. Dad said, "Why did you buy that? You wasted your money. You're going to read it once and throw it away." I said, "That's not the way comic books work, Dad." He says, "Well, once you read it, you know what happens. Why keep it?" So I didn't buy. I was probably 15 at the time. So until I started driving and working, I really didn't have my own money for the most part. I had some, but I really wasn't in a position to go out and do a lot of shopping on my own. Because at this point, I was 14, 15, almost 16 through there. So when I got to be working at 16 and had my own car and had my driver's license, I did go back and get a lot of these back issues. And again, a lot of these were in the $3-4, $4-$5 $4 box because they were printing so many of them, and condition wasn't really important to me. And then I think probably around I don't know, somewhere around the 50s, I was able to start buying them and having a pull list at my local comic book shop. So I didn't, but then I finally was able to.
Okay. So, but essentially, you got the full run and you read them.
Yes.
Okay. G.I. Joe.
Never cared for GI Joe. I got the crossovers because it was Transformers, but I never read any GI Joe up until the Generation 2 relaunch
Okay.
in the pages
Right.
of GI Joe.
All right. So for me, I collected both, back to back. If they came out the same week, grabbed them both. Opposite week, grabbed whatever. And the story of G.I. Joe got so better. It was so in depth. It was so good. And I kept reading them and waiting, and I'm like, I can't wait. What's going to happen? Is this person going to die? They're in this situation. What's going to happen? I can't wait for the next. And then they took my characters and threw them into a crossover with Transformers, and they made them campy. And I really thought that was a disservice to the G.I. Joe characters. I really did. I do not like the crossovers, and that's why. It brought the story down, in my opinion.
Yeah, it kind of
Did
does.
it work?
I
Yeah,
can
but
understand
it
that.
was not the
Yeah.
same story.
Well, if you look at, and I've got a quick analogy. If you look at, there's a comic reviewer out there called Linkara, atop the fourth wall, and Linkara is a big Power Rangers fan, and he has reviewed every season of Power Rangers up until this point. And he has said one thing about the crossover episodes: neither team must outshine the other, because if you don't, you make either the new team look ineffective,
Yeah,
or
you make it one-sided.
you make it one sided.
Yeah.
For example, Operation Overdrive. If it, for any Power Rangers fan, that's the episode they were talking about, was Once a Ranger, and that was the thing with the GI Joe Transformers. They did not keep it balanced between both teams, so you did not have the crossover you could have if both sides were kept to the best possible versions of themselves.
Yeah, but I get the concept, but I'm telling you, reading these, especially back in the 80s, and I think the crossover was still in the 80s.
Crossover
Might have
started,
been.
I think it was like late 80s, and then
Yeah.
I forget which issue it was. There was an issue of Snake Eyes that came out that had Destro and Baroness on the front, and the very last panel shows Megatron for the beginning of Generation 2.
So if it's the one I'm thinking of, so you have Snake Eyes and Scarlet going through a minefield and they get blown up and they're presumed dead.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's over in this universe battling these big monsters and everything. And then you go back to Transform or the G.I. Joe, the next issue, and you find out it was a cover up. They did that so they could do an uncommissioned whatever raid or whatever to get somebody. So they did it off the record so that the government wouldn't be involved with what they were doing. So you had serious stuff, and in the middle of it, you pushed over, and you're fighting giant robots and blah blah blah. I didn't like it.
It's the same thing
I
that
thought it
happened
was
with,
demeaning to the characters.
it's the same thing that happened with IDW. They had to work in the whole enigma of combination, that whole Combiner Wars thing, in the middle of their books because it was a mandate from Hasbro. So that, what you said, was the start of bad crossovers happening to books everywhere because it was a mandate by somebody to get it done, to get the sales, to introduce the toys, with complete disregard for the story and the characters that was being told. So,
Well, actually, no, that wasn't the start
well, it was
because Marvel 2-in-1, if you ever know what that is, or Marvel Team Up, those were made a long time ago. It wasn't to see what would happen if you took these two titles together. It was because one title wasn't doing good. This one is. You push them together to boost the ratings on the other.
right.
It was marketing.
I mean,
Yeah, Marvel Team Up and all that.
that's kind of
Yes.
what happened with GI Joe. GI Joe was kind of hitting their wall, and
I think it was the opposite. I think GI Joe at that time was definitely selling better than Transformers, and they did that to boost the Transformer sale.
okay, yeah, I could probably see that. But I mean, I see where you're going with that. I personally just like the idea of them working together, and like in a
Later
same
on,
universe.
yeah. Well, later on, Image and IDW did and it's called GI Joe Transformer GI Joe, and they went back in time and did it during military times and everything else. And I read those. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We
You
love
just
our
keep
fur
walking.
babies.
I've been trying. Oh, jeez. And it they were okay, but when you're used to the format, especially the first GI Joe and Transformers, in my opinion, they're lineal, and they shouldn't connect at any point. So while I do have the original Transformers and GI Joe, I honestly, I kind of put them right up there with the yearbooks, and I put them up there with the Order of Battle. They're okay to have, but eh.
I mean,
I mean, do you guys know what I mean when I say that?
yeah,
The yearbook, the Order of Battle. You know what those are, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's like,
Sideburn doesn't. He's
Yearbook-
shaking his head no down there.
yeah, yearbook was every year they just came out with another thick book that they did another story. Okay, and some were good, some were bad. For GI Joe, they did the Order of Battle, and for Transformers, what was it called? Help me out. Where they listed the bios of each character, and it was on a
Universe, something like that.
might have been Transformers Universe.
I think they were called Universe because it was like 4 issues. I thought.
Yeah, it wasn't much. And I think that came out right before the Headmaster series did. And they were fine for a fan. It was eye candy. But it really it was like fluff.
It was filler.
Really didn't do anything. It was. Just like the Order of Battle. I mean, heck, in G.I. Joe Order of Battle, guess what we had? We got Rocky Balboa. Guess what? He never made it. They were like, we can't afford him. We're not doing it. So, I mean...
It's a wonder that hasn't happened yet.
They can't afford
how
it.
big the G.I. Joe fandom is, why Rocky Balboa has not made it into the 3 3/4 inch scale, or at least a 6
No, the
inch
reason
area.
Rocky Balboa didn't is because, first of all, you had Sergeant Slaughter, and they got the rights for that. And then they tried to get the rights for someone that was bad, and they couldn't. So they just made up a character called Big Boa. He's a boxer. Good enough. Go. I mean, but that's IP stuff.
Sergeant Slaughter's always been my favorite, though. Love that guy.
And dude, if you've ever met him,
Nicest dude in the world.
he's a great guy. He really is.
He's done a lot for, like, the children's cancer community, because he does show up to a lot of those hospitals and does, cameos and all this stuff, and really helps promote that type of thing. And as he's gotten older, he still does. Like, when Hasbro decided to do the 6 inch,
What, the classified?
The classified figure.
Yeah.
The big thing that blew him away was the fact that they made a tiny little version of him that he can hold, in package that he put in his hand. Like I watched him actually talk about that in an interview, and he was just like, "Oh, it's so cool that they did that, and it's." I think it's awesome because everybody like kept asking like, "Well, did they have to, did they bring these to you to make sure they were approved and they looked right?" And he's like, "Yeah, they have to," but he loved it. I personally am still after that figure if I could ever find it. It's the only 6-inch figure I want, the classified one I want, but I can't ever seem to run across it. That one and Pimp Destro, but that's just Pimp Destro's hilarious.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I know those two are hard to find.
Well, guess what?
What?
We're right at that almost 1 hour mark.
We are at that 1 hour mark.
Cool.
Did we want to say anything about the Kickstarter situation and all that?
Let's do round robin. Like 4 sentences or less, pro or con.
All right, I'll go. I've only looked at it once. Sounds great. Very expensive. I don't really need it. If you like it, good for you.
That was 5 sentences, but go ahead. Jason.
I love the idea. Personally, financially, I cannot afford it right now. But I am very, very happy that it exists because it's getting harder and harder to come across those comics individually, and also harder to get the volumes because those are becoming more scarce as well.
Kudos to you for using a run-on sentence to get it under 4. Good for you. Mike. I have a feeling you're going to do this in 1.
I don't know.
There it is.
The covers or the, I think the collection looks cool set. I've thought about getting them just because I don't own G1 Marvel.
Okay. 4
So
sentences.
what's your opinion, Brett?
4 sentences. I had the same opportunity with G.I. Joe. I chose not to, and I found the Compendium, which is essentially the same thing, for much cheaper. That was 4.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna just a quick aside. To get a full set of the originals in UK, or to hunt down, because was all that released in IDW volumes?
Yeah.
To hunt those
some
down,
of them
would
were,
you? Yeah, would you spend more or about even or less if you?
It's funny you should say that. So the only thing I have to go on is G.I. Joe because it came out first with this. Really thought hard about promoting that because I wanted my Marvel run, and I kind of wanted the UK ones. But I found I paid significantly less for this Compendium, however you want to pronounce it, and I can find issues of the UK comic cheap. So building that, it's really not going to be. I mean, is it going to be in the same condition? No, it's not. Am I still going to be able to read it? Yes. So I'm going to go with an overall. If you're looking at getting something that's limited and that you want to collect it, that you think it's going to appreciate in value, go for it. You may or may not get it. If you want to just be able to read it, I think it's too much money. I just do. I think that there are cheaper ways of attaining the same goal.
That's fair. Because at one time I did try to start collecting the IDW volumes. I think I only got maybe 4 out of. I think it was. Is there like 8 or 10 of those? And there's quite a few. But trying to hunt down each individual comic is kind of becoming harder. And personally, I think the individual issues should go to people that actually want to collect individual issues. Me, I am one of those ones that would like to read it, much like I have with my Generation 2 comics. I have the individual issues because I collected them. But I also have 2 softback graphic novel ones that I could read. I also have a hardback one. I'm trying to acquire the other one because I'm a completist when it comes to trying to find full issue sets. But when it comes to trying to acquire all 80 of those issues, I personally think it would be a lot of time that I probably wouldn't have the time or patience to do to try to find them individually. So, in my opinion, I think that Kickstarter is a great idea to get something you can pull off, put on a shelf, pull it off, read it anytime you want. You can even let other people read it, and you don't have to worry about your originals getting ruined.
If
But
I'm just gonna say, if you're not worried about condition, most of the issues go for between 50 cents and $1. Okay, your first, I'll be honest with you, your first issue, even in crap condition, is going to go for some money. Your last 5 issues, even in garbage condition, are going to go for some money. What I mean by that, at least $5 or more. Everything else in between, I mean, I've seen them consistently 50 cents, $1, sometimes cheaper. You go to your LCS and you're going to find them in the discount bins. And
Yeah.
guess what? They might be ratty, but guess what? You can still read them.
that's very true. You're not wrong about that. But in, like, say, my eyes, say, if I really wanted to buckle down to read the entire thing, I myself probably would be going after just like the IDW volumes because of space saving. Um,
Then wait for the
the Kickstarter.
GoFundMe thing goes through, and then afterwards they make a compendium, however you want to pronounce it, like I said.
Mhm.
And I think I paid. I mean, I probably paid $50, probably 40 or 50, but it was 50 issues. It's on Transformer or on GI Joe. It's the first 50 because they haven't come out with the next one yet. For Transformers, seeing that there's only 80. Okay, let's say you split it in half and you pay $80 to $100 to get the full set in 2 volumes. That's really not bad.
No, it's not terrible.
If you figure, even back when it came out, most of them were 75 cents to $1. You're kind of getting close to that $100 mark.
That's very true.
It's not, and it's not bad. Trust me. My GI Joe one. If you worry about condition and everything, you never want to open it because it is a softbound book and it's very thick. So as soon as you open it, you're going to crease the spine. Okay?
Yeah.
If you want to read it, it's great. If you want to collect it, don't touch it.
I mean, that's
Kind of like a G2 slingshot. You know, you can look at it, just don't touch it.
Oh man, you gotta learn how to open books if you're creasing spines, bro.
You have no idea. This thing is like 3 inches tall, spine-wise, and is held together by paper. It's gonna crease. I'm telling you.
well. I mean, that's very very true. But in my eyes, I have been looking at the volume books myself because of space saving. If you're collecting all the individual comics, You know it, and I know it. You're going to want to put them in a special thing to keep them from getting all messed up. And whether you're collecting them for condition or not, because you still want to read them, you still have to make them so that way you can access them easily. To me, a
Sure.
volume book is better. That's just in my
Oh,
eyes.
I guess.
But I'm also one of those kind of people that I've been looking at. Well, I think it was past couple of years, they released all the manga from Japan for
Yeah, I know.
Headmasters, Victory,
I
and
need to get
all that.
those.
Those are
The-
really, really cool. And there's like only 3
Alright.
of them. And getting
So,
them in English. They're in English. So you're able to actually read them versus trying to have to understand how to read Japanese. And
so a couple things.
I think those are
Hang on.
amazing.
I get it, but we're getting off topic again. Going back to what we were saying about, still GoFundMe to me, and all that. Remember that if you got, let's just say you want to get every issue as good as it can be. All right. Well, what do I have to do? Well, you can pay $30 to $40 a piece, send them to CGC, have them graded, and they're capsulated. Okay, well, you can't never open them again, but they're good. They're in the grade that you wanted, whatever. And I'm not going to get into the grading thing. But even if you have a raw one, and it's in good condition, there's backing, there's baggies, there's top loaders for every issue. So there's a cost involved in that.
Mhm.
If you want beaters to read, dude, I'm telling you, Transformers, 50 cents, $1 a piece, you'll find them. I guarantee you'll find them. Except for, like I said, the first issue and the last 5 might cost you a little more. If you want something presentable that you can read, that looks good, that's all cohesive, get what I bought for G.I. Joe, because I guarantee it's going to come out for Transformers, and it'll be cheaper.
Well, until that
Overall,
happens,
it's what you want to do.
we kind of have only 2 options right now until that happens. So, Brett, you got people who can go back.
I mean, honestly, you have you
Or
have the
back this
digital
thing.
copy too.
Oh yeah, you have
still have the
digital, but
I mean, if you want to read them, and you don't want to pay for it, go online. I guarantee you'll find them. Guess what? The storyline is just as good if it's not in your hand. It's just as good.
that's fair. Like I don't know. I'm just one of those kind of people that I like reading a book. I don't like reading a book on a screen. I'd hate doing that.
Textile, to me, is important. I get it. But before buying a book, have I looked it up online and read it? Yeah, of course I did. Because I wanted to know what I was buying.
Well, I agree. I myself, the only thing I have that are digital that I don't have,
Oh my goodness. Massey too?
Massey.
This Massey passed away December of 2024. This is Hank.
No.
Hi,
He's so
Hank.
cute.
Does Hank bite as often?
No, but he does. He is extremely energetic. Yeah, he and Massey did not get along very well.
Massey didn't get along with a lot of people and things. So,
But
I saw Massey attack you so many times.
Massey
Yes,
attack.
yeah, Hank. Yeah, Hank will love you to death and cover you in what we are calling kitty glitter, because he's Siamese and he sheds.
oh yeah.
So that
I
was-
really, I really love puffy eyes.
yeah, that was a drive-by hanking right there.
Drive by Hank.
All right.
My dog's butt is just back here.
Well, mine have been like knocking everything over and barking, so you know where mine are.
Yep.
Right now they're laying at my feet. One thing I wanted to ask is, did anyone get anything this week?
I got a bunch
You know,
of.
I mean, I'm not talking about the stuff you have to go to a doctor for,
I tell you,
but
that,
I mean,
that thing is such a G2 Dreadwing look. Why just swap the head? Seriously,
Yeah,
swap
yeah.
the head.
And for those who don't know, this is the Earth Spark Soundwave. That is in. They basically took several figures, redid the package as a package refresh, and then slipped in Soundwave and hashtag into that assortment. So
nice.
they are one per case each.
That is a really really sweet looking jet.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he suffers from the aerial bot syndrome.
Yeah, I saw that
Of course.
when you were earlier,
Yeah,
but
you know.
Well, I
But
mean,
but
I
he's
can forgive it for
there's
that.
still extra.
in jet mode. He is wider / taller than Prima Prime, which is a Voyager class figure.
So he can be used
This-
as a shield. Or boomerang.
Pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I would so try and figure out how to make him hold that as a boomerang.
Yeah.
But
When
that's just-
Captain America throws his mighty Soundwave, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
I was
but
thinking
it-
Mazinger because you know Mazinger's
It works.
chest piece
It
comes
works.
off as a boomerang.
Yeah.
um,
That's what I got
so
this week.
I got a package in, and I was not expecting a package. We have a listener. He's not here now, which kind of upsets me. But Michael Boyle.
Oh,
Okay.
I think I know
And-
Michael. I think.
Yeah, he sent me something.
Oh.
Let me see if I can zero it in on the camera here. He sent me this.
Is that a
Hang
buzzsaw?
on.
Which one is that?
I can't tell. The Enterprise is shooting at it.
I am. How about this?
Oh wow,
Oh yeah, I remember those.
the Dairy Con.
The Dairycon. That takes
That
me back.
was this year's exclusive. I think they made like 25 of them. And I had asked him, I said, man, I really would like to get one of those. And he's like, I'll see what I can do. Well, of course, they sold out. But Mike evidently got a hold of someone that has one and made a deal and did a trade. And I knew nothing about it. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's here. And I'm like, dude,
That's gnarly.
what the heck? And he's like, yeah, I knew you wanted one.
Dude, the Dairy
That-
Con stuff is so cool.
Yeah, but I'm looking more towards the fandom. I mean, Mike, what do you want for it? Nothing. What do you want from me? Nothing. I mean, dude, that is, if we leave nothing else about the Transformers community, it is you help people, you be cool, and the karma comes back. And it did.
Darn it, Don, your sneezing earlier got me.
Sorry.
It's very, very, very true.
And yeah, this is one of those items. Everyone gets to that point. I actually had a guy in my G1 group that has decided to sell his collection. And think about this. He has loose every form. So if it had a robot or a alt mode, or if it had a robot alt mode, he had those. All of them loose. Everything. G1. All the way up until Action Masters. He didn't do Action Masters. All the way up to that. He's like, I'm going to sell it. And we've been working on that. And by the way, there's, I'm sorry, shameless plug. In our Facebook group, there is the G1 buy sell trade. He is going to start posting that. So there's everything. Because it was time. I'm telling you, when my time comes, I'm not selling this. There's a few things that I'll sell everything else. I'll sell my $10,000 toy, but I'm not going to sell this $50 toy because of what it means. That's the stuff we live for. That's why you do it. That's why you build the community. That's why you deal with people and give them the deals. It's a family. Nerdy family, but it's a family. It's why you do it.
Well, I mean, that's what the fandom is all about. I've had people send me packages that I never once asked for, and I have actually done the same. I have a good friend of mine that he wanted one of my custom G.I. Joe Transformer crossover vehicles I did, and I was like, okay, I'll send it to you. He's like, oh, yeah, no. Well, I turned right back around and I sent him a few other vehicles with it, and he was pretty happy about what I'd sent him. Because there's times whenever you're downsizing your collection, it comes down to, do you know somebody that actually want that type of thing, versus am I really going to get a whole lot out of it? Like, sometimes the joy of giving something to somebody means more than the monetary value behind it. Like, a lot of it deals with, that's why the fandom even exists. I had a good friend of mine that wanted me to hang on to one of his collection pieces because he didn't want any flack from his family. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll hang on to it for you for a little while. So later on this week I'd give it to him. But I mean, there's times that I don't think people understand how much the fandom actually is like a mental health cleanser for some of us. And
I think that collectors and even dealers get a bad rap. I mean, you look at collectors, and there are people that be like, yeah, that's the 30, 40-year-old guy in his basement collecting this, that, and the other. And then they look at dealers, and they're like, yeah, that's that hoarding guy that hoards everything and sells it for an inflated price. And does that happen? Yeah. But then there's other dealers that just, they get stuff and it's like, I've done it many times. I have bought a collection because I know one item that someone really wants, and I make sure they get them. So, and I mean, Jason, I and it's because I gave to me, it's more like I want to see what I'm do it, and I think that's part of it.
did I lock up? I don't think I locked up. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
afraid my
yeah.
computer froze
What
up,
happened there?
and
Yeah, you were sidelining really bad.
Yeah, everyone went.
moving, and I'm like, all right.
Everyone went super robotic, and I was like, "Am I crashing? What's happening?"
So we all need new crap, all right?
It was probably what it was Discord was. It was Discord was the common denominator.
Anyway, what I was saying is that, Jason, I sent you stuff. I don't want anything in return. I just wanted to see what you would do with it. And it's a growth. It's a growth in what we all like. Okay? No one here likes turmoil. No one here likes bills. No one here likes traffic. The day-to-day stuff. But we like these stupid little bots.
Yeah,
So focus on that.
these stupid little
Yeah.
robots that turn into things like this.
Yeah. So guess what? We're not going to talk about the traffic I had to take or get through to get here. We're not going to talk about the turmoil in our lives and this thing. We're going to talk about the things we like. These stupid pieces of plastic that we keep gathering. I'm not going to say collect. We gather and they just kind of surround us in our little room or in our home, and that our family sees and accepts.
And then occasionally a book or two.
You knocked out all your soda cans.
Dude, the dogs, they're killing me.
But you love them
I didn't get-
anyway.
I got rubber monsters. That's what I got this week. No Transformers.
What rubber monsters did you get?
I bought some vinyls for Gridman.
Oh, cool. That's pretty awesome. I did get a bunch of knockoff Micromasters. My other half's mom got them off of eBay for me, pretty cheap. So it gives me more cool things I can do some customs with. And I also got this electronics science fair magazine that's actually from Radio Shack back in the day. And this is a
I
a
remember
comic book.
those.
These are so cool, and I found out there's a whole line of them. So I'm like, yep, I'm gonna probably try to get all these because this is just this.
Yeah.
Radio
Is that
Shack.
the
Uh,
with the computer whiz kids?
yes.
Yes, Lee Cara has covered
See,
all of those on his channel.
it's right there on the back. It's very cool.
I can't see your camera's not active for me.
Why is it not active? Can't see it.
No,
now.
I see it, but
Okay.
I see it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool book. If you guys have never gotten into these, I think they're neat.
talk about Funky.
Come on, guys. It's Radio Shack stuff. All of us grew up with Radio Shack. Even Sideburn did. Because Radio Shack didn't die off
I
till,
did.
what was it, like 20...
Look, back when I was a
something like
kid, if you wanted a pair of walkie-talkies, you went to Radio Shack.
My first computer was a Tandy. I'll leave it at that.
And I'd say the last thing I purchased from Radio Shack, I actually have a soldering iron with a magnifying glass with like the little alligator clip things. I use that thing for everything. And I've had that for years.
That was labeled under the old man welding kit.
Yes,
Yes.
I have one of those. And I love that.
Yeah, I need one of those at this point. So.
If you are a hobbyist, if you're somebody that really wants to fix toys, stuff like that, really try to invest in something like that. With they call them magic fingers nowadays instead of alligator clips. Get one of those things. It helps so much when it comes to repairing toys. It just does. Especially with a huge magnifying glass that's this big, so it really makes it so it's easier to see things. Because, our eyesight's going.
You can't see it, but mine is too. I have contact.
I know because his eyesight's going. That's why he can't see it.
Exactly.
So, Don, what was something you got from Radio Shack that you can remember?
I was a member of the free battery a month club. You got a punch card, and you could go in once a month and get a free battery. Now that's just like one battery. So if you had something that took 4 AA batteries, it took you 4 months to get 4 batteries to run it. If you didn't want to go out and buy batteries.
But that's why you invest in the 9 volts, because usually it only took
Nope.
you 1.
No, man. You invested in watch batteries. Have you seen the prices in watch batteries? Oh my God.
I blame our fandom for that, because how many people get these stupid third-party things that have light-up eyes that you have to have a watch?
I don't know,
battery
but
shoved
I'm
back
looking
in the
at
head.
this thing's the size of a Tic Tac, and it's more than, a D cell. Come on. But they're like, we gotcha. We gotcha.
If there's any market that anybody wants to ever invest in, it's battery technology. That's where you're going to make your money.
Because the smaller, the more you make.
But anyway, with that being said,
I'm done.
Have we exhausted our Marvel comic thing for the week, you would think?
Yeah. We're at an hour and a half. I think we've talked enough.
I think we've blabbed enough about this. You guys tune in next week, same time. We're going to come at you with some more stuff because, we're always got something in the wheelhouse working. So, you know how it goes.
So,
and
are we
happy
going to
Mother's
be-
Day to all the moms out there, by the way. So,
Yeah.
Happy Mother's
Yeah.
Day. What
And-
time are we going to go with?
7:30 Eastern.
7:30.
Eastern
Seven?
Standard Time.
Third.
That's
That
the
is
far
the new
end of
time.
the country that ends in water.
Yeah.
Correct.
And opposite
Go
of the other
east.
far end.
Yeah, going the opposite way, the opposite way of west.
Atlantic, not Pacific.
That way.
You say not specific? Good.
Not Pacific.
Not
if you
specific.
If you hit Hawaii, you've gone too far in the wrong direction.
And you're a day behind. So,
So anyway, with that
Anyway.
being said,
good night, everybody.
night everybody. We'll see you guys.
Everyone take care.
Yep.